Oh, apparently Cameron doesn't have the chat. So good morning. How you doing, Cameron?
Ooh, snap, son. I just
What's wrong?
realized. Faux pas.
What you did?
Um, n- Nothing. I almost showed a logo off that I'm
Oh.
not trying to show off while I'm on the show.
Well, here, I'll switch to the emergency backup, Cameron, and you can change your shirt. Nobody's looking. I promise. Shithead. All right, it's Taco Tuesday, so let's talk about the migrant crisis.
There we go.
There you are. And so, yeah, like I was saying, it's Taco Tuesday. We're going to be talking about the migrant crisis, Merrick Garland, and the gross and impending failures of the Biden administration. Now, before we get too far into that, hey, Alex Bleeping Jones is with us. Good morning, sunshine.
Good morning. Thanks for having us on last night.
Yeah, we did a show with Alex last night. It was a good show, and hey, I think we picked up almost 20 subscribers just off being on that show last night. So
thanks, buddy.
Yeah, buddy, we appreciate that. Appreciate the hell out of it. And I got about 3 hours of sleep last night between getting off of that show and getting up to get this one ready. And so I went ahead and popped on and watched a couple of the other live streams from the various Patriot and Prepper and off the grid living type channels that were watching us last night. So yeah, that was fantastic, and we appreciate you guys. And thanks for joining us this morning. I see you said it's bedtime, so sweet dreams. And we're going to tear into this. Before we get too far down talking about what is actually happening, let me say this about that. Joe Biden is the president. So far, of the predictions that we made concerning the possibility of Joe Biden becoming the president, he has sent more troops back into increase our activity in active conflict zones. He has re-engaged attacking and bombing and killing brown people in the Middle East. That's a thing we said he would do.
But he tweets nice.
And to be clear on the whole bombing the Middle East thing, to an extent, I'm actually on board for quite a bit of that. But here's why it's funny. In theory, his voters are not. His party is. The Democrat Party is 100%. They are all in on conducting war in the Middle East because they are the party of the crony capitalist, right? People try to point to like Halliburton and what is now Academy, used to be Blackwater, and all those guys. Those mercenary corporations, and I mean companies that literally field mercenaries, their political contributions go to Democrats. That's who you're talking about. Republicans are more interested generally in keeping that money at home and using it to build a stronger America. Using it to build it. We would rather see that money stay here and actually make it into the government for the purposes of strengthening and fortifying our actual military than be funneled through special incentive programs into the government, through the government, out of the government, into mercenary corporations, and then they're through, just like with Planned Parenthood and Think Blue and Black Lives Matter, basically money laundered so that those tax dollars just go directly into the Democrat Party coffers. I would rather see that money, since it's already been stolen at gunpoint by the government, I would rather see it just used to shore up the military to perform an actual legitimate function of government, which is to secure the border and the national security. But that's not what happens. So that the immigration problem is going to get more and more severe under Biden is just another of our predictions where to no one's real surprise, I was right. Cameron was right. I go back and watch as many of my shows as you'd like. Occasionally I'll miss a prediction, but it's not often. Go back and find me being actually wrong. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but you're looking for a needle in a haystack.
Sorry about all this, brother. My camera just went super wonky, and I'm trying to fix it. I'll just accept that it is what it is, and I'll leave it alone now.
Yes, we would appreciate if you would stop failing. Lindsay says, "Get your life together, shithead."
I'm trying. You have no idea how hard I'm trying.
Steve says they're gonna use your tax dollars for a DC QRF to keep you out of your capital. God, that's terrifying. I'm pretty sure nobody watching right now while we're live has actually sat on a QRF. God. Talk about 12 hours in your full battle rattle. And I was, some might call it lucky, because of the job that I did. Because of the job that I did, I was usually not available for QRF, but I did do it a few times. And some would think me lucky because each time I did QRF, it just happened to be a slow shift and we didn't get activated and have to actually go out and do any fighting. Those of you that know me know better. I was on the QRF and I didn't get to get activated and go and engage the enemy. I had to sit there and entertain myself for 12 hours in full battle rattle. But to have an actual QRF in DC, that is terrifying.
Well, they just need to keep it locked.
If there's a QRF in DC to prevent citizens from entering the Capitol, then it will be the case that the United States military will have become the domestic enemy of the people.
Well, not only that, but I mean, they just need to keep the Capitol locked down until they can turn it and Puerto Rico into a state.
They're just scared to death that Joe's going to escape before they get a chance to kill him.
Come on, man. Come on. Corn Pop was a bad dude.
See, I've seen a lot of jokes about how the barbed wire and the troops are there to keep Joe from wandering off. They don't go far enough. It's not to keep Joe from wandering off because he's a crazy old man with severe dementia that's likely to wander out in the street in his diaper and flip-flops and get run over by a car. I mean, yeah, obviously that's a reasonable concern. But of much greater concern to the powers that be at present is that Joe will figure out a way to escape before they can have him very publicly assassinated in order to complete the transition of power to the first cock holster.
The first spit roaster?
No, she's not a spit roaster, man. That would be the people on either end of the pig.
I like how I teed that up and you ran away with
it. Yeah, it's good to be prepared.
just as a quick aside, have you seen the hysterical footage where Joe Biden's like, "Hey man, hey, am I supposed to take questions?" And then like the feed gets cut.
Yes. Well, he said, and that's about all. So I'll take questions now or whatever you want to do, Nancy. And then the feed gets cut. It's like, nope, you said the wrong thing there, Joe. He just straight offers to take questions, and yeah, somebody on the TriCaster said, nope.
No. We can already tell Joe needs his diaper changed.
Yeah, and Nancy, I can take any questions you want now if or whatever it is you want to do. And we're back.
So obviously the problem here is our side theorizes that they want to jam us full of illegal immigrants, and then they want to give them voting rights because the majority of them will vote Democrat. You take a state like Texas, buddy, Texas would be blue for decades if that ever gets pushed through. There's just too large of an undocumented worker population in Texas.
Oh, God, don't ever make that sound again.
For it to ever be overcome. And, for some reason, we keep getting told that we're paranoid about voting, and then they pass an HR 1 and actually expect us to take it seriously. But anyway, the other thing to really worry about is this is not going to get taken seriously because of our Attorney General, Merrick Garland, whom Obama nominated to fill Scalia's Supreme Court seat when he died, towering intellect that he is. I don't know that anybody could ever actually fill Scalia's seat. They could occupy it, but that man was a genius. But the same Merrick Garland, he's a moderate. We should vote him in. We should take this as an opportunity. We have no idea if a Republican will win the White House in 2016. And, better to have a moderate now than a far lefty later if a Democrat wins. And I'll tell you, when I knew Merrick Garland was a piece of shit?
When Obama nominated him?
Yes, that's right. How did you know that's where I was going? It's like we talked about this beforehand.
Almost. It's also almost like Obama maybe put that Attorney General Eric Holder in place. When they go low, we kick him in the nuts. I'm Obama's wingman, and I'm gonna fire state attorney generals in Florida until I find one that will prosecute a clear-cut case of self-defense on strictly race-based lines, which doesn't sound anything at all like Brian Kemp prosecuting the McMichael brothers. But I
digress.
I could wander off that high dive all day.
But no, this is the same Merrick Garland, who's the supposed moderate, and this is a few weeks old now, but he was asked if he'd ever considered whether or not illegal immigration should remain illegal, and his answer, I shit you not, was, I've never thought about it. And
it was, I haven't thought about that question. I just haven't thought about that question, Garland said in response. I think the president has made clear that we are a country with borders and with a concern about national security. I don't know if a proposal to decriminalize but still make it unlawful to reenter. I just don't know the answer to that question. I haven't thought about it.
How many times does he say I don't know in that sentence? Too many?
Twice. But he says, I haven't thought about it 5 times.
Well, even I haven't thought, okay, well, dude, you're literally applying for the job of America's top cop. Think about it.
So what makes you want to work at Burger King? Well, I don't know. I just haven't thought about it. How do you feel about flipping burgers? I don't know. I haven't thought about it.
I know, right?
Are you aware that we sell French fries? I hadn't thought about it.
I mean, and this is one of the things I just hate about the left and the way they lie without actually committing to the lie. There's something equally offensive about the bold-faced lie, but there is something in that I personally can find a modicum of respect for. Like, if you're going to jump in with both feet and, fuck you and your horse you rode in on, and there's your F-bomb for the morning. But the lie without lying, man, it's such a cowardly thing. Okay, I've never thought directly about whether or not illegal immigration should remain illegal. It's not something that I've like sat and war gamed out in my mind. It's a thing that Chris and I do. We'll take a concept and we'll discuss it and we'll play it out in our minds, even if it's a concept we disagree with whole cloth, because the mental exercise can be fun. It can force you to think in new ways and all that good stuff. And I've never given that level of brain power to whether or not illegal immigration should remain illegal.
I have.
Fair enough. The point that I'm making, though, is even without dedicating that level of brain power to it, I've still thought about illegal immigration and what it means for it to be illegal. To have a guy with a law degree say, I've never thought about it. Dude, fuck you. Come on. Can you at least tell a better lie? Please?
Yeah, and the first thing to understand about illegal immigration is it's not a thing. There is no illegal immigration. Immigration is a legal process. A thing that looks like immigration that doesn't follow the legal process is not another type of immigration which happens to be illegal. It's invasion by a hostile external force. Illegal immigrants, as they're called, undocumented workers, as they're called, anchor babies, as they're called, are not mere civil criminals. They are war criminals committing a hostile act on behalf of a rogue foreign power and should be executed on sight as hostile foreign invaders. They are active enemy combatants. Everyone without exception. That is not my opinion. That is a legal definition.
See, and we already show them mercy because we don't shoot them on sight. We are, in fact, the most tolerant and humane society. I mean, we're the pinnacle of Western civilization.
I think in this case, you have mistaken mercy for cowardice. Or rather, cowardice for mercy.
No, not me. No, not me. It is an act of mercy. I realize that there's a certain degree of that there's a certain degree of cowardice, and besides, let's be honest, they're not being shot at the border because of cowardice or mercy. They're not being shot at the border because of manipulation. They can be used as a leverage point in the future. Democrats are awesome at using other than white people as talking points and hot button issues.
And so many blacks are waking up to the, hey, wait a minute. The Democrats keep pandering to the black people and then not doing anything for us. In fact, if you take a close look, the Democrats keep causing problems for black people just so that they have a reason, they have a platform to run on, so they can con more black people into thoughtlessly voting Democrat. Well, there's so many blacks now waking up to that and saying, screw you. You've never done any. You've done less than nothing for me. You've been a net negative for me and my people for my entire life and the entire history of this country. Why should I keep voting Democrat? And well, if the black people are going to start waking up and voting against the party that opposed the abolition of slavery, the party that instituted Jim Crow, the party that opposed both civil rights movements, the party that implemented poll taxes, the party
that segregated the military,
the party of eugenics. Not the party that used to believe in eugenics, but the point I made the other day about the establishment and continued operation of Planned Parenthood, among other things. Look at the questions on the virus policy and how the vaccine is to be distributed based on race and various. They are still the party of eugenics. They're still trying to implement active eugenics. Black people are waking up to that in huge numbers already. A lot more blacks voted for Trump in 2020 than have voted for any other Republican before. So as long as that's happening, the Democrats, they need brown people who don't know anything about American politics from anywhere they can get them, and they're happy to hoover them up from the South. It's that simple.
I'm going to slightly correct you on one thing, and I'm going to reference Ronald Reagan.
Well, that's fair. There are white people that come across the border illegally, too.
Ronald Reagan said, it's not that our liberal friends are wrong. It's that they know so many things that just aren't true. And those are the kind of brown people Democrats want to hoover up. People with heads full of incorrect knowledge that have been taught to draw the incorrect conclusion. America bad. I mean, we all want to come here, but America bad. Capitalism bad. We all want to get a job, but capitalism bad. You know, and you were talking about why black people shifted to Trump, black men in particular. I'll tell you why. I think it's because you reach a certain point in time in your life where it doesn't matter what your education level is. It doesn't matter what your cultural background is. You hear some slick as shit guy like Merrick Garland say, well, I've just never thought about it. And you're like, nah, fam, you full of shit. I can tell. No, I don't want anything to do with that. I mean, that's what it is. Honestly, even going back to that first debate between Donald Trump and Joe Biden, when Donald Trump was so rude because he kept interrupting Joe Biden to insult him, even though if you go back and you watch the debate, Biden interrupted Trump first. Trump didn't break that seal. Everybody forgets. Trump is a counterpuncher. He lets you hit him first, and then he comes back over the top and hits you twice as hard. And I think as far as minorities are concerned, it's not just the impact that's happened in their own lives. They look at their own communities that have been voting blue for decades, and things have a tendency to not get better until that evil gentrification shows up. And then they couple that with where they watch that debate and they're like, but Biden started it. Right? Am I crazy? Are you gaslighting me? Oh. And then when you figure out the media is gaslighting you can't ever put that genie back in the bottle. Like, ever. Ever. That's the problem with actually waking up. You can't go back to sleep. You can't.
Yeah, when you take that red pill, you chew it. And so let's go back to the article for a minute. That first real coherent sentence from Garland in this tirade, not tirade, diatribe. I think the president has made clear that we are a country with borders and with a concern about national security. Okay, couple things.
Has he?
Has
he made anything clear? Other than
I think during the campaign, he tried to make it very clear that he would not ban fracking, or at least during the last month or 3 of the campaign, he tried to make it very clear that he would not ban fracking. That was day 1. Right. Same thing on the pipeline. That was day 1. Now, as to Biden making it clear that we are a nation with borders and a concern about national security, he did make some very clear statements about that. Back when Obama was running for president originally, and Biden was his running mate, both of them suggested that we build a border fence. They didn't call it a wall, they called it a fence, but they did say we need to build a barrier on the border because illegal immigration is a massive problem for the American economy. That was his position. Yes, when he was candidate for Vice President Biden, so still just Senator Biden at the time, he made it very clear that the country needs a border barrier to prevent criminal aliens from illegally committing the war crime of hostile foreign invasion onto U.S. soil.
He just wasn't tired of walking into gas stations without having to use a slight Indian accent.
Hey, James just joined us. Good morning, James. But
different border, but
that was his position. That was his position before. And then ever since Donald Trump got elected, Biden has been one of those vocal opponents of border security. Not just a border wall. No, border security. So make no mistake, the Democrat Party is now the party that opposes secure borders unless you're talking about around the White House where Joe Biden is. They are the party that opposes election security.
I still think that's a case of keeping things in just as much as it's a case of keeping things out.
But I mean, do yourselves a favor. Go read H.R. 1. And then come back here after you've read H.R. 1 and tell me that H.R. 1 is not straight up, hey, we've decided that election fraud is just cool now.
Yeah, it's going to happen. And we're going to make it incredibly difficult to track when it does happen. And states are not allowed to require voter ID and just all sorts of madness.
James says, awesome. Hey, Cameron's live and not sitting in his car.
I'm always live. I'm just usually sitting in my car. I can't help it that I have to work a lot of hours, man. It is what it is. I promise it's not always my favorite thing to do, but I do get a sense of satisfaction out of doing it.
Incidentally, Bernie's model country is now printing $1 million bills. Their dollar is so effed. I'll have to go check that out. That's hilarious. Terrifying, tragic, heartbreaking, hilarious.
That's actually one of the brilliant things about the Donald Trump administration. And if you are a thinking person, like, I feel like this is the kind of point Tim Pool would be forced to acknowledge, even though he kind of leans to the left on a lot of things. Trump acknowledged so much of the hypocrisy that's out there. How many how many politicians, period, but how many Democrat politicians just over the past 20 years do this right here? Try and figure out which way the wind's going to blow. I mean, lest you not forget, Barack Obama was all for, like, heterosexual marriage only. There was no homosexual marriage in the 2008 Barack Obama platform. But the political
the 2008 Barack Obama platform was explicitly on traditional marriage. Traditional marriage is the only marriage that will be codified in law. There will be no gay marriage under U.S. law. That was Barack Obama 2008.
Until the polls began to trend in the other direction, and he decided he'd take a gamble and see if he could ride that wave that looked like it was coming. And wouldn't you know it? Wouldn't you bleeping know it? But one of the ones that's the most fascinating.
Take care, Alex. We'll see you later.
One of the ones that's the most fascinating is the whole thing with our election security. You know who sounded not exactly like Lynn Wood and Sidney Powell, but really close to Lynn Wood and Sidney Powell just 5 short years ago? Elizabeth Warren and Amy Klobuchar and even Jimmy Carter. Yeah. It turns out when you've got systems to tabulate votes that most people don't understand exactly how they work. Golly, that's kind of scary. That's the kind of thing where you could manipulate the data, and we need to have transparency and accountability. Until Donald Trump is the one saying it. And as soon as Donald Trump is the one saying it, like, that stuff from Amy Klobuchar and Senator Warren goes down the memory hole fast.
And here's the thing, another thing about the electronic voting machines that you need to understand. Part of the problem is with voter confidence, not just with the machines themselves and whether or not they can be compromised. The fact of the matter is, a voting machine can be built so that it is tamper-proof and it can be trusted. But what it takes to make a voting machine tamper-proof and trustworthy is complex on a technical level that you cannot make a layman understand the trustworthiness and security of that system, which means that no matter how good an electronic voting system is, and I'm not saying that any of the systems, for the purposes of this conversation, I'm not making a claim on the security or tamperability of any of the systems that were used in the 2020 election, honk, but the fact of the matter is that because you cannot convey the complexity and the intricacy of what is required for a person to actually understand when a system is secure and trustworthy, then there's no way to implement an electronic system where the question of voter faith in the security of the election does not arise and become a problem.
I don't know. I think it'd be pretty easy to explain to the layman. We could start by not having Ethernet ports in the machines.
That's a start, but that's a start.
I mean, I'm just saying there's actually things that we could do that that the layman could understand.
Waller says perception is reality. You know, that's a whole nother conversation. I would refer you to Descartes' Meditations, except he was basically a plagiarist, and I would recommend that you actually go and read Aquinas on the question of that I know that I can know is a thing that I know, and that is another, and that I know that is another thing that I know. Ergo, I know an infinite number of things. Therefore, I am.
Yeah, in fact, Chris and I could literally do an entire week on... Buddy, we could probably seriously go on and on and on about perception is reality, especially couple that with the training that you and I have had about perception of ethics is ethics, and that could be folded into that perception of reality is reality.
Oh, yeah, couple that with my philosophy degree where I literally drank all of the philosophy out of a college and had to make up new classes to keep going. Hell, a 1 week conversation. Shit, we could start another channel on it.
But that's...
Of course, we could also tear into astronomy, because I never get tired of talking about how Tycho Brahe had a gold nose and pissed himself at the king's table.
Didn't want to be rude. I'd rather sit here and die than be rude.
Oh, Waller, he says I'm talking in a social context. Oh! We were talking about the crowd the other day and how the crowd, the public, is an entity, and there's a lesser sub-entity, which is the press. And the big problem with the press, and the reason that they're able to lie the way that they are, is the press is only accountable to the public. And that's not to say that the press is accountable to the individual people who make up the public. The press is only accountable to the perceptions of the entity, which is the public, which is a singular entity with its own wishes, desires, objectives, actions, and motivations, which is made up constituently of the individual members of the public, which agglomerated conduct that popular sentiment, or zeitgeist as it's most commonly referred. And then the public itself is not accountable to anyone and cannot be. No amount of government power with no amount of weaponry can cause the public to be subordinate or accountable to any other power. And that is terrifying. But at the same time, knowing that and understanding that it is possible, in fact, to influence the zeitgeist, and that the zeitgeist, which is the spirit of the public, can then influence its individual constituent members, is reassuring, assuming you can manage to get your hands on the messaging and the dissemination of that messaging sufficient to actually shift the direction of that zeitgeist. So, yes.
Yeah, we have people leaving, and I just checked the time, and I think it's because we busted 0800.
Bitches.
Yes, we all have to go to work, Chris.
I do too, actually. Sort of. I have shit to do. Some of it pays me money. It's not all really work, and I don't actually have an employer, except this guy. I have clients. Clients are way more fun than employees. You know what I like about clients? Unlike employers, you can fire them.
Right.
Which is not to say I've got any... All the clients that I have right now are solid fucking gold. I love my current clients, and I'm thrilled to be working on some of these projects. But I've had bad clients. Sometimes you just have to fire them.
Yeah, Krista says she didn't leave, but we're about to have to sign off, so... Oh, well,
Yep.
Love you.
Y'all be safe, love you, and we'll see you tomorrow.